Welcome to Fraud Friday, Coleman Report Live Edition. I'm Bob Coleman. We're talking Main Street and the small business lenders who help it grow. Lance Sexton's in the house. Lance, welcome. Good to see you.
It's good to be here, Bob. I just noticed Delaney finished her exam and just joined us.
Oh, she was complaining that she had an exam and she may be late, and I said, I want a note from the professor.
A note from the professor. I hear that.
No, I'm kidding. Delaney, are you there, or are you just getting settled in?
I am here. Do I need to get on right now?
All right, you take your time. Just relax. We're not. Please, everyone, there's your certificates that you can use for documenting that you are getting additional training. Delaney, this is a story that you are very interested in.
Me too.
And you've done some research on this, and I am too. This guy is. You tell the story. You tell the story. It's your story.
Well, Jeff Grant had a law firm for more than a decade, maybe multiple decades, and throughout his time, he eventually developed a drug addiction, took his family on very expensive shopping sprees. I read somewhere that he was betting. So eventually he turned into some financial trouble, and once 9/11 came around and there was FEMA and all of those disaster loan programs, he found an opportunity in that to, alleviate some of this debt. So he applied for a almost $250,000 loan. Before he got this loan, he was charging up his credit card thinking that this would end up saving him. Of course it didn't. He managed to go on for a couple of years before eventually the IRS got him, and he was sentenced to 14 months for wire fraud and money laundering. He got out. He has created a white-collar crime support group. It's been going on for quite a while. I think there's been...
interrupt you. I love the story. Now we're talking redemption. And
Yes,
absolutely. Go to the next slide. He got clean. He got clean and sober. And go ahead. And this is
he's actually still a practicing attorney, or he has his own law firm. Just not even a year ago, he was finally able to be accepted back into that job.
All right. Well, here are his 7 points. Go through them, Delaney.
His first one is that essentially getting a disaster loan, if there's a deeper issue, is essentially putting a Band-Aid on a deep wound. It doesn't fix the key root of the situation. The second one is that whenever we're in times of crisis and, everybody's feeling very hectic, people tend to believe the rules no longer apply, and that is absolutely not the case. If you don't follow the rules, you will eventually end up getting in trouble. The third one is readjusting your business plan, evaluating, where you stand, can help the borrower identify whether it is a necessity, a disaster loan, or whether it just, again, seems like a quick fix.
Lance, jump in here.
Well,
what's interesting on this, get rid of the word disaster loan and put any type of loan. Go ahead, Lance.
oh, absolutely. When I look at number 3, it's an excellent point to take forever.
Right.
It's like when a SBA participant lender considers a deferment, the SOP reads, a deferment is a solution to a temporary problem, not a permanent problem. Trying to take somebody who has cash flow issues and finance them out of the issues is never a good solution. So number 3 is an excellent takeaway from this gentleman.
Oh, absolutely. Go ahead, Delaney, finish up.
Number 4, similarly, especially, taking COVID, for example, many small businesses had to shift their business model and see whether they, can keep up to date. Everybody shifted to online. If your business is not capable of doing that, a loan is not going to keep that business afloat. The 5th one is always understand the terms of the loan. You have to use the proceeds for what is defined in the loan. You can't use it for other things. SBA loans are intended to save your business, not your lifestyle. It's not supposed to help with your mortgage, student loans, any of that. And then lastly, before making a quick decision that you might end up regretting, sometimes you just have to reach acceptance that maybe the business is not going to continue on.
Well, and I think there's a great takeaway in a couple of those points. Number 5 is pretty critical. We have so many idle loans out there, and the borrowers need to remember what the funds are supposed to be used for on an idle loan. So understanding the terms of the loan and how the money is supposed to be used is very critical to all the people who received idle funds. And I know as participant bankers, you get questions about that all the time. And an SBA loan is never intended to save a business. You know, there are some circumstances when we refinance debt that's on unreasonable terms that are acceptable with an SBA loan, but there's also a ton of language in the SOP, in particular when you talk about refinancing debt. No debt should ever be refinanced where the creditor is in a position to sustain a loss. So a lot of great takeaways from this. And when Delaney was telling me about this story, my only question is, how did the bar ever accept him back, which I'm sure there are some provisions. And I thought about all the people who committed PPP fraud and idle fraud today. You know, this is a story that shows you can rebuild your life after doing it.
Yeah, redemption. It's a story of redemption. And I believe a part of his practice, Delaney, doesn't he consult with people who are going to jail? And he draws out on the floor with the tape. So this is what you got, and these are the rules that you need to do. So that's his business model, correct, Delaney?
Yes. He's definitely focused on the crimes that he previously committed.
Well, yeah, and what I appreciate about this is he accepted it. I mean, not no, it's a nice. I mean, it's sad that he went through this, but it's a nice story of where he ended up. Gets his license back, and it's 20 years, so it's 20 years of high earning income that he forego. So it's an interesting story. And go ahead, Lance.
Another takeaway from this is when PPP was going, you know, fraudsters jumped in hot and heavy, dummied up applications, got more money than they should have gotten, or got money when they shouldn't have gotten any at all. And, you know, they got the money into their account, they're out spending it, and life is great.
Videos.
And then Homeland Security or the FBI or the local sheriff knocks on your door.
Yeah, they're not.
It always seems great until they catch you. And that's kind of a phase we're going through with PPP now. You know, you didn't hear about PPP fraud, and then toward the end of 2021, every day, there were tons of cases.
And then next up, there'll be some bankers that have been fallen into the trap. Very good reporting, Delaney. What did Mr. Williams do?
I personally found this story very interesting. He applied for about 30 PPP loans. He managed to obtain a couple million. I believe it resulted in losses of 2.7 million, but this is a very typical PPP fraud case in the sense, you know, doctored documents, false statements, all of those works. But instead of some of the other sentences we've seen, he was sentenced to 10 years in prison.
Wow.
And also, Bob, I know you always love hearing this. He did purchase some vehicles.
Good.
One was a Maserati Levante and a Jaguar F-Pace. So the FBI ended up seizing about $500,000 in vehicles.
He needs at least 3 luxury cars. What the hell?
Well, I hope driving the Maserati for a few weeks was worth 10 years.
I'm still waiting for Lance to seize a Maserati, and I want to see the picture, Lance.
Yeah, the seizures.
You have a GoPro? Put it on the...
Yeah, it's not going to happen, Bob. And something I'm learning about the seizures is that process is a pretty long, drawn-out process.
Oh, very good. Thank you.
So
go ahead.
Sorry, I'm going to interrupt you. I would like to know your opinions. Just specifically on this case, again, this really strikes me that he got a relatively long sentence when we compare to some of the more complex PPP and idle fraud schemes. What do you think made this story different?
Well, he had a previous guilty plea. that was it. So he has a history.
And,
So it's a second offense. Go ahead, Lynn.
yeah, I think there's probably some information we're not getting on this case. You know, something he did in the process, in addition to his previous charge, was more egregious than some of the others, because the dollar amounts and just PPP fraud, it would seem this guy'd get 5 years.
Yeah, karaoke range, 5-6 years, right?
Yeah.
Very good. And our last fraudster, Physician Partners of America. Tell me it's not so, not the physicians, Delaney.
They ended up having to pay about $25 million to settle allegations of unnecessary testing, false statements related to a COVID loan. So these people, it was alleged that they were submitting claims for urine drug testing and other urine analysis testing that was unnecessary. That way they could end up, you know, raising some pay, getting some extra profits. In addition, during COVID, whenever, you know, people were losing some of their business, in this case, they aren't able to visit with their patients as often. They, instead of doing, I think it was visits every 2 weeks or every month, they started making evaluation and management appointments every 14 days and allegedly upcoding and upcharging these visits. In addition, it was alleged that they got a $6 million PPP loan, making false claims.
Well, he's lucky. I mean, based on this, no one went to jail. They wrote a check to make it all go away, and they settled without admission of guilt.
And I'm seeing more of these types of stories.
Yeah, so they're...
Yeah, but you compare this one to the previous one, and the dollar amounts are significantly higher. When you look at the total fraud, you'd think this guy would get some sort of significant sentence.
Well, we got the money. We, taxpayers, the U.S. government, got the money back, which which helps in that situation. Very good. So we got a couple questions for you, Lance. Number one from Russell. We had a PPP came out, and it's confusing a number of issues. Number one, is this the same update that came out a month ago? Go ahead, Lance.
Yeah, there was an update that came out in the platform a few weeks ago. This is the same update. It's just that we're seeing a lot of SBA district office staff send this out to people, and it's got some great information. In the case of, we're all going through PPP forgiveness, and your borrower submits an application for forgiveness. We're seeing quite a few partial approvals. SBA's going in quite often and doing their own calculation of what the loan amount should have been. One of the common mistakes that I see in the original loan calculation is sometimes some of the expenses that you can spend the PPP proceeds cannot be included in the loan calculation. So you see a borrower that not only counts payroll, but counts rent and utilities in making the original calculation, and somehow it got through the bank and they got a loan for an amount they shouldn't have gotten. So SBA is doing partial approvals. Or if SBA fully declines it, any loan made before June 1st of 2020, and there are a few loans that were made shortly after that I think got a 2-year term, those can be extended to a 5-year term to allow the borrower to pay it back. Now, on the guarantee purchase question, what this policy is talking about, and it's been the same forever, on a guarantee purchase, whether it's a PPP loan or a regular 7A loan, you have 180 days from the maturity date of the loan to submit your guarantee purchase request. And that's the same thing that's true on a PPP loan, and that's why they bring this out. Let's say you did a April 2020 PPP loan. Okay, guys, that loan is mature now because we're in April of 2022. It was a 2-year loan. you have a couple of options if there's a remaining balance. One, you could extend that 2-year loan to a 5-year loan and allow the borrower to pay it back. But let's say the borrower has a April 2020 PPP loan. You've sent them a couple statements and they have not responded to those payment statements. Well, and the maturity date has already expired. You can still submit that for guaranteed purchase as long as it's not 180 days, which is basically 6 months from the maturity date of the loan. So, I mean, I think they're just reemphasizing that because we do have a lot of loans that are either shortly past their maturity date or the maturity date is coming up. And as a participant lender, you're not lost and won't be prohibited from doing a guaranteed purchase as long as you get it in. Let's say you had an April 1st maturity. Well, basically, you're going to have to the end of September to get your guaranteed purchase. Now, Bob and Delaney, would I recommend anybody wait that long? No way. You know, if I have one that is mature and has missed 2 payment statements, I got a guaranteed purchase going to SBA today.
Yeah.
But that's just what that's telling you, Russell. You've got 180 days from the maturity date to request guaranteed purchase.
Lance, from a benchmarking analysis, how long should it take someone to fill out a PDK? Obviously, the more you do, the better you're going to get it.
Now you're talking about on PPP or 7A?
Yeah, I'm talking PPP.
Okay, real quick, you have 3 documents you have to have. You have the borrower's note, you have the SBA transcript of account, and you have the assignment form that assigns the note to SBA. You go into SBA system under the guaranteed purchase tab, do request guaranteed purchase, put the loan number in. It populates a lot of the information. You have to put in the original disbursement date, the default date, the loan amount. Then you have to calculate the interest that is owed, excuse me, from the disbursement date up to the default date. You enter that number. There's a drop-down box where you choose your reason for submitting guaranteed purchase. It's either going to be 60 days past due, bankruptcy, death, or indictment. And then you upload those 3 documents, check a box certifying it, and hit submit. Bob, I do guaranteed purchases. Now, we have a process. I have a team that loads my guaranteed purchase folder up with the documents, but I can do one in 3 or 4 minutes.
If someone's taking it from beginning to end, I mean, how much time should you give them to do that?
Gathering the documents, submitting the guaranteed purchase, no more than 10 minutes, Bob.
Okay, very good. So your advice is let's get those done, let's get those in and clean them up.
Yeah, there's no reason. You know, I've sat and done 40 in a 2 or 3 hour period. There's no reason it doesn't take long, and I'm sure most of you have gotten in there and submitted some, but you don't wait, get it done.
This is what I wanted. We got the book, Lance. I sent yours in the mail. So
I'm excited to get it, Bob.
It mirrors the SOP. It's cheaper to buy it on Amazon than to print it out. So anyway, thought you'd get a kick out of that.
Well, I think there's a lot of lenders, Bob, that will take that and bookmark particular sections that they work in frequently and refer to that. Probably will be, I mean, you can do the PDK document, but boy, I love having a hard copy.
Yeah, I know. You and I are old school.
Well, it's just like reading a newspaper, Bob. I like to get
what?
the newspaper.
Well, you have to explain that to Delaney. Delaney, do you know what a newspaper is?
I don't like reading the, Delaney knows I love to read the newspaper, but I like holding it in my hand, being able to save things for future reference. Those of you who are connections with me on LinkedIn, found an old newspaper with a picture of me playing 5th grade football that I posted for a teamwork post. And
back in the 30s.
Oh, well, my boss, Chris Hearn, he indicated that he didn't realize they had photographic technology back when I was in the 5th grade.
But well, very good. Lance, what are we talking about next week? I know
I'm sorry. We're going to talk about preparing a proper purchase demand kit. Guys, I know you hear me say this over and over, but all of us have borrowers that are stressed now. And you need to know how to get paid on the guarantee. And the final thing I will say, Bob, we wouldn't do an SBA loan if we didn't rely on the SBA guarantee. Relying on the SBA guarantee means you understand how to do a purchase demand package.
Well, very good. Delaney, thank you very much for reporting. Lance, good to see you. Everyone, happy Good Friday, Passover, and enjoy your Easter celebration and holiday. Thank you for supporting America's Main Street, one entrepreneur at a time.
Have a great weekend.
And have a great weekend.